good afternoon, good evening, depending on where everybody is. I've been asked to provide introductory remarks, and I just wanted to contextualize the soil acidity problem from the context of Africa, and in particular Sub-Saharan Africa, where most of this does occur. So to point out that over half of Sub-Saharan Africa is affected by subsoil acidity, and this is in the order of 27 countries, and significant impacts on both crop production and food security. And as big as the problem is, there is really not much effort on the side of resolution. And some of the issues around this have to do with poor awareness of the problem. It's not fully appreciated as to how significant and what level of impact that this has. Also, the value chains that would support the management of acid soils are not either established or are poorly set. And also the necessary information background from and management background from an agronomic extension, economic and policy perspective is either absent or is inadequate. And related to these, some of the things that we have to look at are, how do we deal with this from a production perspective or from an on-farm perspective? Do we look at acidity as primarily something to address to decrease the pH, to make it less acidic? Do we address issues around nutrients? Do we try to address both? These are some of the questions that we have to address and have to go about. In terms of, for example, some of the issues around soil acidity have to do with subsoil acidity. And in other countries, this has been addressed through the use of mechanization, where we have application of lime and other components at a subsoil level. But in the context of Sub-Saharan Africa, do we have the opportunity to do so with gypsum? How well can it play a role? And these are the questions that we need to bring to bear as we're trying to address it in the context of Africa. And then the other thing is, when we're looking at soil acidity and trying to determine how much lime, what are the methods that we need that we need to use? What are the things that we need to do to be able to do so? Do we just measure pH? Do we have other soil properties to look at? I think there was one slide that was jumped. Yes, this one. So one of the advantages that we have is we don't have to start from scratch. The soil acidity problem has been addressed in substantive ways and at scale in, for example, countries like Brazil, where they have 50 plus years of experience. And I think we're all aware of how well they've done in the Cerrado, for example, making it a breadbasket from something that was not productive at all. Australia also has similar experiences. One of the things that we have to do, however, is to adapt these to our conditions, the smallholder farmers with little mechanization. So how best to do we do so? And the other is the socioeconomic and policy contexts that we have for this are really not that flexible. They're fairly rigid. And we have to really develop an enabling environment to be able to, whether it's through the process of incentives and through assistance to the development of value chains, or even to the initiation of, for example, lime crushers, transport systems for this, necessary, whether it's agro dealers or other dealers, and the types of public-private partnerships that we do. How do we address these? And so basically, I've tried to give a high level of contextualizing the problem and how to, and to summarize some of these issues. One of the things that we have to realize is addressing the problem of soil acidity in Africa can substantially improve crop production and food security. For example, I think Dr. Tamaskan will point out later on that even in the context of Ethiopia, we can improve wheat yields by close to 1 million tons or 100,000 tons per year, perhaps more, by addressing that. And there's also a pool of international experience that we can draw on. And one of the things that we have to do is really to work on the enabling environment, to the value chain infrastructure, so we can sustainably manage this. And, as we're doing so, we have to realize there are research and management related questions that we still have to keep an eye on and try to address as we're going about that. Those are my remarks. Thank you, Jean-Jacques. It's back to you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Gameda, for the introductory remarks. You've actually raised a very critical point, which I believe are going to inform the next sessions. A critical point that I've noted here, and I fully agree with you, it's not about acidity alone. So we need to understand what is the source of acidity and which type of intervention is required. I mean, for some of us who are soil scientists, you don't treat a pH and yeast acidity the same way you deal with aluminum toxicity. I mean, in my case in Rwanda, and I'm sure we'll hear from colleagues here, so the lime requirement will vary from, the problem that you are dealing at hand. And I'm glad that you brought out the issue of experience from Brazil, from Australia, which are also tropical countries, which I think have done very well as far as soil fertility management in general is concerned, but also acidity management is concerned. Those are very useful opening remarks. Now, colleagues, at this point, I'm aware of time. Allow me to invite with pleasure Dr. Martin Fragen for a keynote presentation, which is going to last for 15 minutes. And as most of you know, Martin is currently the Director of Agriculture and Agro-Industry at the African Development Bank, based in Abidjan, Cote d'Ivoire. Martin is a plant geneticist and molecular breeder with over 25 years of experience in genetics and the breeding of cassava. I believe everyone in Africa and even beyond has probably eaten cassava product from Martin's work. Dr. Fragen developed the first molecular genetic map of cassava, which I've personally seen long ago. And this has been actually used widely. This was a work done during his time with IATA. But also we have to recall that Martin worked with the CIAT as a director of one of the project on Bio Cassava Plus project at the Danforth Center. Martin, I know your CV is very long. I can't introduce you more than this. I'm sure people are jumping to the website and Google about you. I will just invite you for a 15 minutes keynote presentation, which we have all been waiting, and this is going to set the stage for the next speakers and the discussion that is going to follow. Martin, pleasure is mine to invite you, and you have the floor. Keep your camera on, kindly. You're on mute for now?
Sorry, I was trying to unmute myself. Yeah,
okay.
I hope you can hear me now. I hope you can hear me now. So thank
we
you.
Can hear you very clearly, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much, Prof. It's a pleasure to be with you all today. I want to thank Sumit, and also want to thank Agra for inviting me to share some thoughts. It's good to be among friends again. It's good to see George and Aseta, and also good to see Sam and Frederick and many others. Sam actually has made my job a little bit easier because he's spoken already, giving some background information on soil acidity in Africa. So I will just skip those slides. But I just want to begin by saying, if you think about it, the very first agricultural revolution in the late 1700s, that's 1780, 1790, that happened in Britain was all about soils. It was about soil management. It was crop rotation, clovers and weeds, crop rotation just to enrich the soil. And subsequently, every other green revolution has always been about soils. The one in the 60s, with India and Pakistan and Mexico, the Green Revolution, Mambolo, is all about soil amendments, fertilizer. Then the ones in the 80s, with Brazil, again, it's about soils, acid soil, making the soil more productive, making it yield, nutrients, to grow crops. Very quickly, well, the problem has already been defined by some. I will just skip it. I will share some of the experiences, from Brazil. Like, I lived in Latin America for 15 years. I was in Brazil many times. Many things that we can learn. Then I'll talk about some challenges, and then I'll make a suggestion on the way forward. So very quickly, Sam has already spoken about this. Many of our soils are degraded and largely unproductive. Very, very low response to fertilizer, mostly because of the structure or because of soil pH, or because of lack of organic matter. Many reasons, but we all know that the reason why yields of smallholders in Zambia, even with the FISP, that's the food input support system, is still about 3 tons per hectare, 2 to 3 tons per hectare, compared to the white farmers who also grow food in Zambia, who easily get 8 tons. We all know it's all about the soil and a high managed soil. So if we can unlock this problem, we can actually drive towards higher productivity, and with higher productivity comes more efficient value chains, and more efficient value chains comes better rural livelihoods. And well, I wouldn't spend much time on this slide, but just to let you know that most of the major nutrients in the soil, the micronutrients, all operates around a optimum pH of between 6 and 8. That's the optimum pH. Once you start going towards lower pH, you see, those nutrients no longer being available to the plant. So soil acidity, aluminium toxicity are major problems when it comes to crop. And some have already spoken about this slide, about the percentage of countries, with acid soils. You can see some countries like Equatorial Guinea, Congo, with a huge percentage of their soils, being acid soil. No wonder some of these countries can barely feed themselves. They import so much food, like, for example, Equatorial Guinea. If you ever have been in the African savannah, which is the largest area of arable land in Africa, you either see the picture on the right, that's scanty trees, but undisturbed, or the picture on the left, after it has been cleared. Actually, that looks like a road, right? But that's how most of the savannas in Africa look like once they have been cleared and cropped some 2 or 3 times. They become hard concrete. It's almost impossible to differentiate it from a road. And that's one of the reasons why it's been so difficult to turn the savannas into bread basket, like in Brazil. The 2 pictures on the left, the upper one is the original savanna in Brazil. I think this picture actually in the farm of Dr. Alisson Podinelli, who was the Minister of Agriculture when the savanna of Brazil was transformed. So he left a part of the original savanna on his farm, and that's the upper picture. You can see very similar to what I showed before, hard, almost like barren soils. Below is a transformed savanna. And the only difference between the up and down is just soil amendments. Lime followed by gypsum over several crop cycles, and then, of course, in brachiaria. And you can see how you can change a almost barren land into very, very fertile land. Africa needs this today. But it's not just lime, because as has been shown, that if you really want to get nutrients to be accessible at the subsurface soil layer, you need something else. You need gypsum. Some actually alluded to this earlier, and you can see in the picture on the right, the rooting systems of the soil that has gypsum applied. So between lime and gypsum, and then the right crop varieties, Brazil has been able to convert an area that, when people were given land there in the past, I was told, they refused. It was so barren. It turned it into a $54 billion agricultural sector today. And we can do that. Over here in Africa, it has been demonstrated that there was some lime, and also proper use of fertilizer. You can actually increase crop production in the savannas. Here's some data on wheat and barley and teff from Ethiopia. I will leave this because I know there's going to be a full Dr. Getachew will talk more and more about this in his presentation. But liming indeed leads to increased yields. Again, coming back to what I was saying, Africa's green revolution will actually have to do with soils. We cannot run away from that. The first and second and third green revolution were all about soil. It will also have to do with soil. So the question is, how do we ensure this happens? That's the biggest question. There are challenges. The biggest challenge, like I told you about Zambia, is just the resources to buy the lime. Many of the subsidy programs don't actually cover lime. Some do, but many don't cover lime. Then in some other countries, like in Kenya, you do have a tariff on imported lime. You don't have enough quality lime, locally. And then, of course, you have all the logistics and power problems. We do have a logistic problem, getting enough of these limes. And then if medium farmers cannot get it, talk of smallholder farmers. But we also have some other big challenges. One is just the awareness, and Sam spoke about this. Many people don't realize that the reason why, even with fertilizer, you still get 2 tons of maize is because of the soil pH. Then it's also the last mile transportation cost. Lime is very bulky. It's a low cost, high volume, product. Again, how do you begin to deal with those issues? So I don't talk about the way forward. I think it has to be a public and a private, partnerships. And I think some had mentioned, had made reference to this. Also, we have to look for appropriate delivery models. I will share some of the examples we're working on in Ghana, with you all. And then we also need some really, really good understanding of the various soils, how to manage it. This has to inform all the public subsidy programs, where people try to help farmers with fertilizer. We must have good knowledge and also the right, inputs, being proposed. Otherwise, you just spend money, as many countries are doing, and farmers will not get the benefits. So first and foremost, I think there is really no point, trying policies that don't actually address, the real problem. That's the science behind the problem. Our policies must be informed by the science behind the problem. So I want to share with you these last 2 slides. The first one being an idea that came out of Latin America. First of all, the people found that just one farmer working on his own, is faced with so many, things like liming, he's almost not able to handle it, but he has land. So in Ghana, the bank started a project where we actually brought together a lot of farmers, both small and large farmers. We helped them with first of all with inputs. Of course, it was all tied into, just bundled into a particular project. Then we helped them with with mechanization. Then we helped them, with things like crop insurance. Then we help them with professional agronomists, very, very important. Then we help them also with things like information services, weather, soil maps, things like that. And then, of course, with the off-taker. And this normally in Latin America is handled by a company, but here we take over themselves. And I'm pleased to inform you that in the last 4 years, we've been able to do 14,000 hectares of soybean and maize in northern Ghana using this system. We need to be able to think of innovative institutional arrangements that actually will support both the farmer and support also the small and the large farmers to ensure that they can get the best technologies and even the best advisory services to be able to achieve. We are hoping to roll this out in many other countries because it really works in Ghana. And then lastly, and Sam has made reference to this, let's not reinvent the wheel. Many of the things we did in Ghana, we actually copied directly from Brazil and Latin America. I know people have said you can't copy directly. Of course, that's true. But there's some things, particularly given right now that you have what is called the technology extrapolation domains, where through rainfall, soil, and testing, you actually can compare and actually estimate how similar environments are. You can do that and actually begin to transfer directly some of the technologies that exist out out there. Who found that this has worked very well in Ghana at least, and then we are looking to roll it out in many other places. Lastly, I just want to say that if Africa is going to resolve the problem of productivity, we cannot run from the soil. We have to think of technology innovations, think of institutional innovations to ensure that we can begin to bridge the yield gap that has seen Africa for such a long time import the net importer of food. Thank you very much, Professor Muhinda. I'm come back to you. I hope I've not spent more than 15 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Fragen. You've done very well in terms of time. Actually, you spent less than 15. Thank you for saving time. And I know some of the participants will wish to engage you. I can see already some asks in the chat box to access your presentation. I believe we will make an arrangement to share it. It's so inspiring. And even some of us who are familiar with the topic, it's very interesting to see, examples where African savanna landscape can actually be transformed due to line amendment. The example of Brazil is just impressive. And to be honest, I personally have no problem to copy models that work and just, transpose it in our own countries. Why should we reinvent the wheel if we have things that have worked in similar conditions? This is wonderful. Before I move to the next speaker, I also wanted to thank you, Martin, for bringing up this whole new area of enabling environment challenges for lime utilization in Africa. For some of us who work with the government, it's very difficult indeed to convince the government to include lime in the subsidy program. For several reasons, some of them you actually mentioned them. I'm glad Zambia has done that. In Rwanda, we introduced this in 2013, at least by subsidizing the transport, component, and I'm sure Pierre Celeste will elaborate on that. And lastly, this whole idea of the coordination company, I see it as a big innovation and it's a learning point because sometimes we fail because of poor institutional arrangement in our countries. I think this has paved very well the way for a conversation with our next speakers. And that's where we are going now to learn from a research perspective, but also from the private sector perspective. Kindly keep watching from the chat box. If there's any question that comes your way, both for you and the Gameda, you can be addressing those as we move. So at this point on our agenda, allow me now to call Dr. Fragen to give us a presentation from the scientific point of view, a research point of view in Ethiopia, to actually complement the presentation by Martin, but also the remarks by Gameda. So before, as he's loading the slides, I just want to inform the participant here that Dr. Desalegn is the director of the Natural Resources Management Research Institute in Ethiopia, in Addis Ababa. He holds a PhD in soil science and has been working in different disciplines with different capacities in the Ethiopian agricultural research system since back in 1992. He currently focuses on different research themes such as integrated soil, acidity management, soil fertility, plant nutrition, land use and crop production, cropping systems, integrated water management, irrigation, and so on and so forth. So we can't really get a better scientific perspective than what we're going to hear from Dr. Desalegn. Dr. Desalegn, I'll give you the floor, and I will request that you deliver your presentation in 10 minutes, kindly. Over to you, and most welcome. You must be on mute, and kindly put on your camera as well. Dr. Desalegn, you're on mute? Okay.
Yeah. Now, okay. Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon. Good evening, where we are. I'm happy to be part of this important event, and I appreciate the organizers for giving me this opportunity. My name is, thank you, Professor, for introducing me. It's not important to introduce myself. I'm working for Ethiopian Institute for Agricultural Research based at the headquarters. The title of my presentation is Research Evidences We Have with Soil Acidity Management. Just I'm going to give you a drop of information out of an ocean. We have a lot of information in the area of soil acidity. We've been working on this subject for the last 12, 13 years. Why soil acidity is very important in Ethiopia? Why we bother about it? Out of the total arable land in Ethiopia, excluding grazing land and the lands which are not currently under cultivation, about 6 million hectares of land is under acidic condition. Out of this, 3 million is severely affected. As you can see from the map, the yellow and dark are that's where soil acidity is a major problem. These areas are agriculturally high potential areas. They receive like greater than 1,000 millimeters of rainfall per annum. The soils are very good with good workability, good depths. However, these areas where soil acidity is dominated, the population density high. Yield losses of up to 100% is reported in some places, especially in Western Ethiopia, where rainfall is high, and some field crops like wheat has become homestead crops. They are not grown outfield. They became homestead crops where refuges are thrown away. Otherwise, you cannot take them out to the field. As you know, lining is very important. You have mentioned the success stories in Brazil, Australia, and so on. However, this practice is common in many African countries because of technological gap. Awareness is not there. How much to apply, when to apply. These agronomic problems are there. So it's not common in many African countries, including Ethiopia. It's also a problem with regard to institutional responsibility. Until recently, there is no institution responsible for management of soil acidity. It was totally overlooked in many African countries, including Ethiopia. After we started working on soil acidity, especially with regard to amendment through liming, we came to know that it has also socioeconomic related constraints, mainly related to transportation cost. So in what farmers normally do, they are really worrying how to amend this soil acidity. Normally, the traditional way of amending soil acidity in Ethiopia is either they leave fallow, the land fallow for 2 or 3 years, then they try to restore soil fertility by doing so, or they convert arable land to eucalyptus plantations. These 2 options are the only available to farmers. This is traditionally well known in many acid-prone areas. As a result, as you can see from this slide, many highland areas in Ethiopia are being converted to eucalyptus plantations. These are soils dominated by acidity. They receive high amount of rainfall, but due to lack of technology, they convert their land to eucalyptus plantations, where rains are being served. Research evidences, we have done extensive research in many parts of Ethiopia on many crops for several years, and we came up with the following results. As you can see, up to 307% of barley yield increment can be obtained by application of lime. By application of lime, again, 268% for faba bean. For wheat, it is about 227%. This is average yield increment due to many parts of Ethiopia. This is a very important slide. For example, as one of the presenters showed it a while ago, fertilizer inefficiency is observed. This means we apply like 400,000 metric ton of fertilizer to acidic areas. But this fertilizer is not efficient because fertilizer applied to acid soils, the efficiency is like 43%. So 174,000 is wasted annually. This is annual loss of fertilizer from acid soils alone. When we estimate in USD, every year we lost like 67 million USD due to fertilizer inefficiency applied to acid soils. If we lime acid soils for 3 crops, wheat, maize, and barley, this graph shows that the additional yield that can be obtained for wheat, for maize, and for barley. This is by applying lime on acid soils we have in Ethiopia. This means if this is, by the way, we were very conservative while calculating this one. By applying lime to wheat growing areas where soil acidity is predominant, we can substitute 80% of the wheat import from abroad. When we estimate this in USD net benefit that can be obtained through liming, totally we can obtain 2.24 billion. This is in billion USD by amending 3 crops alone: wheat, maize, and barley. You can imagine how much remunerative it is by applying lime alone. This is what I have for you. Thank you so much for your attention.
Wonderful. This is very brilliant, Dr. Desalegn. I mean, I wish you can continue a little bit. Time is the enemy. I know you have so many materials, and we were worried. And you said it very well from the beginning that it's just a drop in the ocean, but very inspiring. And I'm sure we'll hear more good examples from these other countries. I'm personally, impressed by the numbers you are registering in terms of yield increase. If you're talking about a yield increase of 200+% on crops like wheat, faba beans, and so on, what else do you want? So this is the evidence that we should be using to advocate for, farmer support intervention as far as access and utilization of lime is concerned. And this is linked to another critical point you mentioned, Dr. Desalegn, here, about the inefficiency of fertilizer use on acidic soils. At least colleagues that I have in the room here are just impressed by the numbers, And this is the mistake we do in most of our countries. We provide subsidies on mineral fertilizers, which end up on very acidic soils. And here you are showing that we actually lose up to 45%. So the economic loss here is just unbelievable. And that's the reason I'm saying these are the numbers we should be using for policy advocacy as far as promotion of lime utilization is concerned. And this also speaks to your other slide on the economic returns on 3 crops only in Ethiopia by just rectifying the acidity problem. I believe with this, scientifically proven evidence, there's no country that cannot invest in this particular subsector. Thank you very much, and I know participants will engage more via the chat room. We already have a number of questions for Martin, and we'll get more for you. And this is really inspiring. We have colleagues on the call. We have time dedicated for questions and answer. Put them on the chat box, and we'll pick some of those, and the speakers will come back and provide some responses. At this point, allow me now to move to another exciting category of panelists today. And these are the most critical one, speaking from the private sector point of view. These are people who produce, who distribute, and who market lime in the countries we are discussing today. On this session, we have 3 speakers from 3 interesting countries with probably a different background, different context. I will introduce them one after another, and then I will give 5 minutes to each of them to make a presentation, a case study basically from their own countries, highlighting the private sector perspective. Starting with Michael Kamau, somebody I've known for many years from Kenya. Michael Kamau works as a sector manager in charge of agricultural inputs at the Kenya Market Trust. He is a very experienced agronomist and a program management specialist with over 15 years of experience in the private sector and also development sectors. His current responsibilities actually include developing partnerships and managing relationship with stakeholders in the private sector at both levels of government. Kenya is a decentralized country. Some of these programs are supported from the central level, but also at the county level. So before you move, Michael, let me also introduce the 2 other speakers so that we can listen to you all one after another. The next speaker will be Teresa Numbia. Glad to meet you again. Last time I met you last month in Dar es Salaam. We had a very long conversation on liming program. I didn't know we will meet again in this webinar. It's my pleasure. So I just want to highlight that you are the project and marketing manager for the Doma Cement, a company that is specialized in the production of agricultural lime and currently working with AGRA. Teresa has been pivotal in ensuring the successful positioning and direction of all marketing activities of agricultural lime in this company. She possesses incredible knowledge and experience in agricultural lime application, plant nutrition issues related to liming, and has consistently provided excellent support and technical advice for small, medium, and large farmers in Tanzania. We thank you for that, and we'll hear from you shortly. Let me now use this opportunity also to introduce my friend and my countryman, Pierre Celestin Byarimana. He's a successful entrepreneur working in agricultural sector in Rwanda. I know him many years ago, especially in the agricultural lime production. He is currently the manager, and he's actually been always the manager for Mashuza Processing Company, which is one of the largest mining company in our country. And they actually produce agricultural quality lime of what we call in Rwanda grade 1, which is appropriate for acidic soil amendment, especially for the correction of aluminum toxicity. So MPLC, which is Celestin's company, has an annual production capacity of 10,000 metric tons. And that's the reason actually his company works very closely with soil-related agricultural development programs in Rwanda, supported by both government, development partners, and civil society organizations. So I've made sure I present them one after another because their stories will build from each other. And at this point, I want to start with Michael. I will give you 5 to 6 minutes, and then after you, we'll switch to Teresa. Mike, put on your camera, and the floor is yours. Karibu.
Thanks, Prof. Muhinda, for the chance. First of all, let me thank the organizers, Agra and Cement, for the invite as a speaker during this event. First of all, just to start it off, is that Kenya Market Trust, we've been working in the lime sector for the past 7 years, and we are going to share what we've been able to observe in the market through the various studies that we've been able to conduct. First of all, to start it off, is that soil acidity is a big concern, especially for the smallholder farmers in Kenya. Where in Kenya, as most of you are aware, is that in particular for crops like maize, we have high adoption of hybrid seed, and also we have relatively high use of fertilizer relative to other countries in the region. But we still experience slow yield despite the use of improved facility. And this is basically because of the effects of soil acidity and the effect that it has on fertilizer efficiency and also the performance of the hybrid seed. To start it off, is that at Kenya Market Trust, first of all, we started by looking at the lime supply chain. We did analysis at both the farmer level and also at the distributors level, and what we found is that there's low demand for lime in Kenya, and one is because of the information gap at the farmer and also the nature of the product that is offered. When you come to the supply side, what we found is that most of the manufacturers, they are in other products. First of all, they're in lime for road construction, they're in lime for industrial use, and they didn't understand in a better way the potential demand in agricultural lime. And thus, they had a low appetite in terms of the investment in agricultural lime. The key areas that we identified were awareness issues, access issues, especially the distribution problems, and also limited access to soil testing services. If you look at the recent study that we carried and we did the presentation this April, is that the current awareness in Kenya is for lime is a bit high. It's at 59.5%. But if you look at the issue to do with soil fertility, most smallholder farmers don't appreciate it as a significant concern for impacting on their yield. And that's a worrying trend that we need to look at. The other one is on lime use, is that still very low at 7%, despite over almost 30% of farmers having access to lime. That is in terms of lime being available near them, where majority of them can be able to access lime in less than 6 kilometers in Kenya. The source of lime in Kenya, key areas is that, first of all, is agro dealers, key distribution points. There is also the subsidy program and also the farmer producer organization. If we come to the challenges in the lime use, key area is information gap. Farmers are still not clear on when to apply lime, the quantities to be able to apply lime, and also the message getting to the farmer in terms of the value of lime and what it can be able to do to them. The other thing is the availability of lime, in particular, the transportation cost. At the agro-dealer level, 5% of the total sale goes to transportation, and about 19% of the gross margin. That's what we found from the study. It's taken up by transportation of lime. The other area is, if you look at the farmer, he'll still have to incur more cost in the last mile distribution, which is additional cost, considering that the product is bulky. For farmer also, there's an expectation that they need to get free lime or at a subsidized cost. And that is also a hindrance for them to use lime. Usability and application of lime. What most farmers tend to talk about is that lime is dusty, bulky, and also tedious to apply. So making sure that despite the high awareness level that we've seen, almost 60%, only 7% of farmers are buying lime. If you go to what options and opportunities are available, first of all is that around 67.9% of farmers are willing to use granulated lime. And the reason is because they have used fertilizer, they know how granular or peeled products are used. And the other thing is that they are interested in a mode of application, like microdosing, where they use it together with fertilizer during the planting. And in Kenya, this is already being done by large-scale farmers, where there is a market that is growing. But surprisingly, when you go to the smallholder farmer level, it's only slightly above 1% of all the households that we interviewed in our research study that are aware there is an option of granulated lime. When we interrogated this further in our study and asked the respondent if they're given option, which lime they would use, a bigger percentage still opted for granulated lime. That's about 59.4%. 33.9% still prefer to stay with powdered lime, and about 6.6% would prefer liquid lime as an option for them to be able to adopt this. With the current, if you look at the crop and the demand area, mostly in the Western Kenya, the Mount Kenya region, there is the coast region that is coming, though the awareness level is very low, is that the current potential demand is about 187,000 metric ton. And considering the results that we are getting at the farmer field, in a crop like maize, where almost double the yield with the correction of soil acidity, sugarcane, I usually joke that as the millers, because Kenya is a net importer of sugars, are fighting about cane poaching. I think the biggest poaching for cane is actually soil acidity in the Western Kenya. And if we could be able to correct that, then we are able to achieve this potential demand, because currently still the volume comparative to what is potential is very low at less than 50,000 metric ton and about 4,000 metric ton for the granulated lime. This is projected to grow in the next 5 years to about slightly over 500,000 metric tons. And if you look at the potential for the local granulation, currently the retro lime that we are importing, about 4,000 metric ton, is costing the country about 2.07 million USD. And we could save that if we are able to do local granulation. And from our study, we found that the cost of granulated lime would drastically drop to less than 50% if we had the local granulation. The other added advantage, other than the increase in yield contribution to food security, also will be able to create job locally. From the financial analysis point of view is that for a private sector who is interested in investing in lime granulation, that will take about 0.5 million USD for a 15 metric ton per hour granulation plant, or about 1.3 million USD for a 50 metric ton per hour granulation plant. And from the projected increase in sale is that the return in investment will be about 3 to 5 years for the two models. The issues that are arising in the policy issues, first of all, is the quality of agricultural lime products in the market. And the previous speakers have talked to this, because in Kenya, we lack a clear quality guidelines and standard for lime. What type of lime? If we told a farmer today, you need to apply 1 metric tons or 3 or 2 metric tons or a certain number of which one? And what is the neutralizing value of the product that is buying? What is the fineness, the particle fineness? What is the chemical purity, or what we call total calcium content of the lime? Are they able to convert from one type of lime to the next? Then there's information gap, use and application. I think this one has been talked many times. Then the lime awareness and demand acceleration. We lack that nationwide lime awareness platform where we can be able to enhance adoption of agricultural lime, especially at smallholder farmers. Enabling environment. A good example is the products. Lime in Kenya currently, sorry to talk about that, is that it is vatable. And because most of the lime that goes to industrial market. So if the farmer are able also to save that VAT out of it, then that will be an incentive, because there will be quite a bit of saving. And also, can we be able to get policy and incentive in place to be able to support awareness, use and availability and production and distribution of agricultural lime? How are we able to do that in terms of multi-stakeholder? Liming equipment, as we've been discussing, is that one key hindrance that we found is that lime is bulky, is dusty. But how are the farmers applying? Is they able to support machinery or equipment fabrication to be able to get the farmers the equipment that they require to try? Crop response trials. For us,
Michael, excuse me, can I ask you to speed up a little bit and summarize? We're running a little bit behind time here.
Thank you. We need to work on that so that we can be able to pass the value proposition for various crops to the farmer. The last recommendation will be more on farmer awareness, which should take a multi-stakeholder approach. The development partners who are here, the government agencies and the private sector, to be able to pass information and awareness. Also, how can we be able to work on lime production, supply and distribution? Thank you, Professor Muhinda. Anyone who is interested is able to get all the study report from our website at Kenya Market Trust. Thank you. Back to you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Michael. You actually ended on my point. I was going to request that this interesting study be shared. I believe this is a good starting point for any country that wants to promote lime utilization. You need to have a baseline and understand all the issues, all the way from technical issues, but also policy issues as outlined here. So take note of this website here. Those who are interested to get access to the study that Mike has just summarized, but with your permission, we could also probably share this with the participant. So allow me now to move to Teresa. I've already introduced you. The only thing I didn't mention, which you didn't include in your bio, is also you're pursuing your PhD study in environmental law. Sorry for disclosing that. It's because I know it. Over to you, Teresa.
Yes.
5 minutes, kindly.
Okay. So, okay. So, I just need
to share screen.
Yeah, please, I'm unable to share the screen. Can somebody share it for me, if you don't mind?
Anna, kindly give her permissions, or?
Yes, the permission is enabled for her.
Look down of your screen. On the bottom of your screen, there's a green button, which reads share screen.
Okay.
Are you able to see that?
Yeah, if somebody else has it, if you don't mind, can you share? Because this technology is always a problem.
Oh, I said, are you able to do that, or Frederick? Kindly pull it up for Teresa. Thank you. Put it in a presentation mode. Teresa, can see it? Can you see it?
Yes, I can see it. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Prof. It's always a pleasure to have you in the room. Again, to everyone, good evening, good morning, and good afternoon. To all of us, happy Monday. It's a Monday today. So as I've been introduced, my name is Teresa Numbi. I'm the project and market manager from Doma Cement. And I'm here today to share the challenges and opportunity for our private sector in production and distribution of quality lime. You know, the good thing about a lot of being presented is that what other previous speakers have just shared is really valid. So I'm also going to share what I have to you and to get a perspective of who we are. To start with, I think everyone wants to know who is the Doma Cement. So when we talk about the Doma Cement, Doma Cement is the Doma mining company that is engaged in production and distribution of quality agricultural lime. We're registered here in Tanzania and is 100% owned by Tanzanian. And we have been to the market since a lot of years ago, that 2007, we're here in Tanzania. And in terms of richness, the Doma Cement own 200 acres of limestone mining site, which we can extract lime for the next 100 years to come, and the lime will still be available. Not only that, we also have 8 acres of lime processing facility in Dodoma. And what about uniqueness about the Doma Cement is that our company is among the only known as well as qualified company that produce and distribute agricultural lime. I love the first speaker say something about gypsum. I just want to give a little bit of understanding that when we talk about our company also produce gypsum. So in our company, we do sell 2 basic products. Number 1 is agricultural lime, which is able to cure or to amend soil acidity where it's applicable, as well as we also sell gypsum in case of alkaline, because we all know that when we talk about the soil health, is either alkaline or acidic. So when it's acidity, my company will give you agricultural lime, and when it's alkaline, my company will give you gypsum for agriculture. And when I talk about I also shift directly to where we are in terms of Tanzania, of which I don't want to repeat. The next slide is shows acidity serenity of Tanzania. This map is available. You can easily go and Google it. You get it. So we're running out of time, so I'm going to skip that. I'll go straight forward to the challenges that we as the Doma Cement, being a private company, that have been facing. So the first challenge that we, the Doma Cement, are facing is that the government policy or strategies such as agriculture sector development have not made agricultural lime as a priority. As we always face a problem that people don't know lime. So to us, when we go and preach, it becomes like the new gospel, while for so many times lime or acidity has been a problem. And why? Because the government is somehow silent or has not give the same priority that it gives to fertilizers. So the major challenge that Tanzania we're facing today and talk about production and distribution of lime is that we lack the voice from the government. And not only that, another challenge that we're facing as the Doma Cement is that the mindset problem that, as Kamau and the rest has shared, that to smallholder farmers, they consider lime as a business concept, which is not. And to some, they consider lime as a substitute to fertilizer, of which most of the time when we go and educate them about application of lime, we always tell them that lime is not a substitute of fertilizer. You still need to use accurate fertilizers for you to get more yield for your production. So the second challenge that I just shared is that the mindset. To some, they also consider that lime is just a business concept. This is the Doma Cement, another company that come and share with us their business idea, of which is not. And another challenge that we just face is on high transportation costs of the agricultural lime. That remain to be among also the major challenge that our products is facing, of which some of the potential buyer, especially in the Southern Highlands, and when they want to procure lime from a company, is that they face with a lot of high prices when we talk about to transport the said product from factory gate to their area where they cultivate their land. So to them, they still feel that applying lime is a little bit costful. And not only that, why is it also very costful is because, yes, in Tanzania, the good thing is that lime is VAT exempted. However, when it's come to transportation, there is a lot of unnecessary taxes that is being placed upon to any transporter who carry lime as a cargo. So those taxation as well as requirement of EFD machine always bring the lime price to become higher, while compared to the factory gate price that our company is selling. So transportation cost is still among the challenge that we are facing. And another challenge that we have been observing since we have been to the field is that most of the farmers rent farms. So in Tanzania, farmers do lease their farms. So for them, they don't see value of applying lime because they're not sure of the next season, whether they're going to get the same access from the owner who's going to lease to them or not. And not only that, you all know that when we talk about soil acidity, for you to amend properly, lime is not overnight product that will work. It will require you to have more than 2 seasons for it to mature and to give you the best production. So to us, since farmers, they don't own such property, they hesitate to apply lime because they're not sure of the next season. And another challenge that we are facing is hesitation of agro dealers. To us as the Doma Cement, we say that we're not going to distribute the distribution channel. For so many years, they have been, the agro dealer mode have been working miracles in us to other inputs. So we say that we're also going to use agro dealers. But despite the Doma Cement showing its willingness to procure a certain amount of lime to agro dealers, for them to go and test our product in the market, most of the agro dealers were hesitant. Why? Because they say that they had limited knowledge of agricultural lime, as well as they were not sure that if they'll get the client. So to them, even if the Doma Cement wanted to give them on credit or even without credit, at least they have our product in their shop, they were very hesitant to accept that. And not only that, another challenge, which is also has been discussed with previous speaker, is on limited or shortage of mechanization. And this end, we all know that availability of mechanization, such as tractor, power tiller, is key in utilizing agriculture lime effectively. But to some part of Tanzania, the land is very hard, and then it's make them very difficult for them to apply lime because they have limited mechanization. And not only that, another challenge that we have been seeing is that willingness of farmers to adapt to new challenge is also still very key. Thanks to AGRA that the whole of last year, we were able to preach the good news about lime. We were able to reach 5 different regions in the Southern Highlands. Farmers are aware about lime, they know importance of lime, but still, we are in the new season right now in Tanzania. We have not received massive order from farmers, the same farmers that we trained them last year, but until now, they have not pressed much order compared to other commercial farms that we always work. So we still think that farmers need to be awakened and to ensure that they engage or they order or they see the importance of lime application before when they're preparing their farms. Now,
may I interrupt you here? Kindly wind up. We're running a little bit behind time.
Yes. So apart from that, the good thing about we also have where there's challenge, there's also opportunity. In Tanzania, the good thing that when we talk about commercial, when we talk about lime, we have presence of commercial farms. These are the people who knows lime, and they always press big orders from our company. So them being there, we see that they will need or they will assist us to show others on the importance of lime. Another good opportunity about lime in Tanzania is that with the help of AGRA, we're able to reach 50,000 smallholder farmers. They are aware about lime. In Tanzania, especially in Southern Highland, when we talk about lime, it's not a new concept. They are aware, but challenges, they are still there. And the other thing is, to us, is also an opportunity whereby our lime is located, our company is located into a very strategic area. The best agricultural lime is found in Dodoma, where our factory is. And another thing which is of opportunity is that they also have extension service officers who were trained and they are well a bit about lime, of which we're sure if we join hands, they are going to bring the news of agricultural lime to many of Tanzania who need that. And the other thing is that there's a presence of agro dealers who, when well trained and well mobilized, they can easily adapt and supply or assist us to distribute our lime. And the other thing, which is also as an opportunity, is that there are still people who believe in agricultural lime, of which I'm very grateful for AGRA, who saw us and were able to give us a push and support, whereby with their presence in our company, we're able to push from 200,000 metric ton to 8,000 plus metric ton, which we were able to sell them last year. And the other thing, we also have other stakeholders who are very willing to participate. That is SAGOD and CDI, of which we are very grateful for their presence. So from the Doma Cement, that is it. Asante sana and karibuni. Thank you.
Karibu to Teresa. Very wonderful story again. We can see some similarities with the Kenyan story. Although Michael was talking about, the challenges of securing a VAT exemption for lime product in Kenya. You are talking about, the VAT exemption existing in Tanzania, but very little, government voice heard. These are very interesting stories. I'm sure I will get similar, insight from Rwanda. On this note, Pierre Celestin, the floor is yours. Kindly use 5 minutes to tell us the Rwanda stories on agricultural lime from the private sector point of view. Over to you, and kindly put on your camera and your mic. Over to you, Celestin.
Yeah, thank you, Professor Ganjake. Let me connect my slide.
It is taking some time to load, but I hope we are going to get them.
Thank you for the organizer for inviting me to this summit to represent Rwanda lime producers. As you may see, about 65% of Rwandan soil are relatively or highly acidic, and these acidity affect considerably crop productivity. We have this example. This acidity reduces cereal productivity by 45%. It affects also efficiency of fertilizer. Some of presenters have talked about it. Rwanda annual demand of agricultural lime is estimated about 750,000 metric tons, but the annual production is estimated to be about 150,000 metric tons. So there is a big gap between needs and supply. This map can show you, you see this red area, here we have a high acidic soil. I think it reached about 4.5 to 5 pH, and this area needs to be amended to help people to optimize the crop productivity. Government have developed agricultural lime standards, which is a good thing. And now we need enforcement and awareness campaign, because many farmers do not know, are not aware of the importance of agricultural lime, except some areas like some districts like Nyaruguru, Nyamagabe, I think Professor Janjak knows. But other area, people need to be, there is a need of campaign to create awareness for farmers to use lime. For private investments, we do have 3 factories, which each one has 10,000 metric ton per year. And these factories are located in Rusizi, it's in the Western Province, and Karongi, and one is in Musanze. So we still need to improve or to increase investment in lime if we have to meet needs. But we do have some small lime producers. Unfortunately, many of them do not meet the required standards. As you may know, quality lime play a key role in the quality lime will play a key role in soil productivity, as it's mentioned here. We do have standards. Standards are, I think, common in Rwanda and in other African countries. Here, I show some area where the farmers use lime and where they don't use lime. There is a big difference. Where they use lime, they have more than 3 to 5 times of yield increase. This example have been done in Nyamasheke district in the Western Province. We have this for Irish potato crops in Nyaruguru. There are some cooperatives who do seed multiplications where they have used lime. Where they don't use lime, they get about 3 to 5 metric ton. But where they have used lime, they have get 20 to 25 metric ton. What is the maximum? So we recommend the Irish potato producer to use lime. They can get enough income. So in Rwanda, we still have some challenges in lime use and lime production. So many farmers are not aware of the importance of quality lime to improve crop productivity. Only farmers in the same district are aware. So there is a need for awareness campaign by government, private sector, and civil society and NGOs. I think we will collaborate and try to help people to be aware. The purchasing power of some farmers is not enough. So some of them do not buy because they do not have capacity. But now government have started to subsidize lime in 7 districts of Rwanda, but they plan to increase. The market before was dominated by substandard lime with low price and low productivity, but now the government have released an instruction recommending farmers to use agricultural lime grade 1, and I think it will work well. The investment in quality lime production is still limited due to the fact that market was not well developed, but I think with this perspective, the investment will increase, I think. There is also a need to read for researcher to make an appropriate recommendation for rates to be applied, because we have an average, they say in Rwanda, we say about 1 metric ton to 2.5 metric ton, but we have different type of soil. So there is a need to do soil testing and make a recommendation accordingly. Thank you.
Very good. So thank you very much, Celeste, for sharing the insight from Rwanda. It's very impressive to see the yield differences, you know, for crops such as climbing beans and potatoes in Rwanda. And this is not a surprise, actually. Just to highlight that the pictures you are showing actually comes from some of those highland areas, which appears in red color on the map that you have showed. So it's not an evidence issue, and I'm glad also to see that the government is coming up with some line-specific guidelines, instructions, and policies to support not only the mining, but also utilization of quality lime products. So ladies and gentlemen, you have heard now the private sector perspectives, full of challenges, but also full of hopes here. So I've now come to a time for the participants to engage with the speakers. We will probably start with the questions that we have in the chat room. We don't have a presentation from the East African community, which was planned in our initial plan, you know, to hear from a little bit of regional perspective. But some of these aspects have been alluded to by some speakers like Martin and others. So this is the reason we're moving to the Q&A session. Let me start by picking questions that were dropped in the chat room. I know Dr. Desalegn have already spoken to some of them, but we still have new questions coming up. So I want to confirm whether we still have Martin on the call. There are a few questions. You had a very interesting presentation. Martin, do we still have you here?
Yes, Prof. I'm still here.
Very good. Let me pick one of the questions that came to you from a participant asking whether the Brazilian models, you know, mainly the delivery mechanisms can work in Africa. So is this something that, you know, you talked about Ghana borrowing some of these models and apply them. Why not other African countries? Just 1 minute to speak to this, and we will come to the next question. Over.
Yeah, thank you very much, Prof. I do agree that there are differences between Brazil and Africa. But the elements of the Brazilian model is pretty straightforward. There are 4 things. The first one was land reform. To be able to use those vast lands in the Cerrados, there was some land reform. The second one, of course, was technology. And here I mean the soil amendments and also the new tropical varieties that were now reproduced. The third was finance. And like you all know, without finance, those things don't work. Even if you're going to, you can get the logistics resolved, you can get all the other bottlenecks resolved. You need to be able to buy those things. Finance, and then of course the last one was capacity. You know, there's a saying there that I like very much: the best extension agent is the farmer. You know, so So progressive farmers working closely with the National Agriculture, Research and Extension Systems, being able to demonstrate, the use of technology. And those 4 things I mentioned, any country you go to, and even if you listen to Michael's talk and listen to that talk, all those 4 things, and listen to Teresa's talk, all those 4 things are, they're the things that you need. You need finance, you need the technologies, and of course you need advisory services. So I think looking at what Brazil did, Brazil is the very first tropical country that became an agricultural powerhouse. All the other ones were all temperate countries. The US, Canada, they're all temperate countries. But a tropical country said, no, this is not rocket science. It can be done. So what I've mentioned, and another thing that are very unknown in Africa, so it can be done. What is actually one of the biggest things that actually needed is that institutional arrangement. Brazil, in developing the Cerrados, had its big program where the government actually intervened, acquired land, gave it to young people, built them infrastructure. Similar also in Argentina. That institutional arrangement that we don't have, and that's why we went into Ghana trying to do some of those things. And like I said, 4 years now, and expanding, the areas working in Ghana, and people more and more people are joining because they're seeing that the yields of those people are going up. So they're all joining. So I believe that it can be done in Africa. It's just that somebody, particularly government, working closely with the private sector, the input dealers, people like Teresa, they all have to come together and agree. Of course, different countries will have different arrangements, it's similar to Brazil. They all have different arrangements, but you all have to come together to agree on the best way forward. Thank you.
Very good. So that's very useful, Martin. Maybe a follow-up question for you here. From where you're sitting at the African Development Bank now, one of the participants here is asking that much as he agrees on the policy challenges, the question is, do we have enough research-based and context-specific recommendations on how to tackle different levels of soil acidity challenges, in different countries to influence modification in the policy arena? Maybe you can speak to that. I know this is something that Desalegn can also speak to, but we want to hear your perspective on this point. Martin, this is to you. You're on mute.
Sorry. Yeah. And first of all, I'm sure you all have heard about the big, Gates initiative. AGRA is very much involved. And CIMIT, I'm sure, also are involved. I know IIT is involved. This big initiative to map all the soils that we have in Africa. I think that when you look at what is out there, the knowledge already exists. The soil testing, the level of soil testing, the level of soil, the requirement for soil amendments is already out there. It is there. I don't think any extension of research institution, maybe Professor and Dr. Desalegn can also speak to it. I don't think they will tell you that for any particular point in Africa, there is no information on soils, and there's no demo trials or fertilizer trials that have not been done. They have been done. It is just now taking that information, ensuring that you get the inputs and then working out arrangements to actually get it done. One thing I found out is that is this scattered approach of working where everybody is trying to do his own thing. We need to get to a point where everybody comes together, and then the suppliers, the end users, the mechanization people. We need to get to the point where we all come together and work out, a way forward. Otherwise, the information is already exists. It's out there.
Thank you very much, Martin. Now, I'm moving to you, James again. Yeah. You might have seen a question in the chat box regarding research on microdosing online. It has been mentioned across the board by all the panelists that lime is bulky in nature. We know that. And also, the other side, we have a low purchasing power by the farmers who are in need of lime. So do you know about research going on localized application of lime to deal with the issue for dealing with huge volumes of lime by smallholder farmers? Can you speak to that kindly?
Yeah, thank you very much, Prof. I want to complement what Martin has said a while ago. The liming technology works very well. This is not a rocket science. It works everywhere. It works in South America. It works in Asia. It works everywhere. But what we need to know is we need to know our soils very well. In connection with the policy makers, especially in engaging policy makers, the problem we have is we do not have demonstrations, large-scale demonstrations that influence where we can influence policymakers. This is what we are lacking in most African countries. Otherwise, if we make demonstrations, many demonstrations on farmers' field and convince farmers, there is an opportunity for policymakers to visit the farms and get convinced and invest on it. Regarding the microdosing we have, the experience we have in Ethiopia is it works under 3 scenarios. Under highly acidic, under extremely acidic condition, where the exchangeable acidity is greater than 3 centimole per kilogram of soil, full application of lime is required. When it is extremely acidic, this is the first one. The second one is when it is very acidic. What we saw in many farms is one third of the total application. I mean the full application. 1/3 of the full application should be applied annually. 1/3 under when the soils are very acidic. When the third option with microdosing is when the soils are moderately acidic, like when the exchangeable acidity is 1 to 1.5 centimole per kilogram of soil, 1/4 of the total recommended lime works very well. We have to apply 1/4 of the total application every year. This is what we know from research side. Thank you so much.
Wonderful. Thank you very much for addressing that comment, Dr. Desalegn. It's very useful. Please continue that type of research. We could come up with a solution that fit the reality of smallholder farmers. I'm now moving to Michael. So you must have seen in the chat box that if lime is well formulated, experience from Western Kenya and Mount Kenya regions show that lime can work well in the season of application. So farmers do not have to wait for 1 or more years to realize the benefit. What do you say, Michael? Can we address the soil acidity in one-time application of lime from your experience?
Thank you, Prof. One thing is that from my experience for the past 7 years that I've worked in lime intervention, one is that the smallholder farmers, sometimes they don't appreciate the slow active process of the lime, because lime sometimes is slow acting. So, and they want to treat it as an input for the season. And that's why we went to try and see, can we get a lime that is formulated in terms of granule or pills, so that they can be able to use it together with their, they're planting, or during the planting season, to do microdosing, some of working. And as Dr. talked, is that in areas that are not extremely acidic, it works perfectly well. And there are projects in Kenya that have been run. I think One Acre has worked on that. Our partner Homerheim worked on trials on microdosing, and you could see quite good improvement in yield, but still the adoption, and that's the question. Why is still the adoption is still low? Because the awareness is high, the options in terms of microdosing is being presented, but why are farmers still not adopting lime? And that's why we need to think, can it be formulated in more friendly way that the farmers can be able to take it up? The other thing is that, can farmer be able to know? It's good, the Doma, they say that they are here and a few people who are direct suppliers of lime, but sometimes farmer get confused which type of lime, because if I'm using burnt lime as for microdosing, definitely I'll lose it because it will react with the fertilizer. It might end up corroding the seed. So to the farmer, then they get discouraged because poor germination, the fertilizer response doesn't work well. So we need the right type of product, the right fineness, that is the particle size for microdosing. So it's doable, and there are quite good results that are coming from the field. Thank you, Prof.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Michael, for that. Probably it's a communication issue. You know, sometimes as a scientist, we don't tell the right story in terms of the difference between an amendment and an inorganic fertilizer. So I understand where the farmers' worries comes from. I'm now moving to you, Teresa, with a final 1 minute comment. You know, in your submission, you really stress the fact that government support is very limited to the work you are doing. You know, very little voices you hear from the government. This is AGRF 2021. We're expecting from tomorrow to have your minister here in Nairobi, hopefully your president of the Republic as well, and even the PS is speaking, if you have a chance to meet them in the corridor. So what will you tell the high-level Tanzanian delegation as far as the work you are doing in liming is concerned? Just half a minute. Over to you, Teresa.
What the Doma Cement want is the government backup. With the government backup, we believe that once they include lime into the policy, that they say that lime is also very, very important item for you to correct or to amend soil which is affected, we will always get a backup. Because right now farmers are hesitating. Why they're hesitating is because the government is silent. So when the government starts to preach the same gospel that we're preaching, we are very free to give them free education on the application and the best use of lime. We will be there. So what we are looking is just a government backup. To us, they see lime as an important input for every smallholder farmers to use in their farms. That's the only thing that I can say, that we need government voice with this. And how it is being done is that somehow, somewhere they include lime in their strategic plan, as well as strategic document, as well as to have a certain policy that include agricultural lime. Not only that, in GAP training, they should also advocate that lime application should be one of the training that all agronomists are trained here in Tanzania on the best use of agricultural lime. Thank you. This is from the Doma Cement.
Thank you very much, Teresa. We have another question on policy advocacy, but I believe this has been largely addressed by several speakers. I'm just moving, last but not least, to Celestine. Celestine, you mentioned about a government subsidy program on lime in Rwanda supporting 7 districts. Can you just tell us what is the subsidy component here? How much is the government contributing to the lime cost, if you use 1 kg, for instance? I remember sometimes back we used to ask for a subsidy on transportation, because the cost of transport was more or less higher even than the cost of production of 1 kg of lime. How does the government contribution currently look like? Just half a minute.
But now the government want to support small farmers by the government will pay 50% of the whole total cost, which is estimated to be.
Celestine, we're losing you. I think your line is not well for now.
107 Rand and franc by KJ 3.5 to farmers, and farmer will pay the remaining.
Okay, so
of the total cost.
All right, so I think the message is, go ahead. Celestine, the line is not clear. We're losing you, but I think we got the message here. My understanding from your response is that government is covering 50% of the total cost of delivering 1 kg of lime to farmers, which in the Rwandan context is actually equivalent to the transportation cost from the mining site to the areas where farmers need lime. And I believe when the government scales up this program to more districts, this is going to be very encouraging. So ladies and gentlemen, we have come to this time of wrapping up our session. Thank you, Celestine. We lost you. I hope it's fine, but we got the message. Thank you again for your contribution.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I'm just saying that we have come to the time of wrapping up our session. I really wanted to use this opportunity to thank all the speakers, the organizers behind the scene here. You can see some people who are very quiet, but who have done all this work. Frederick, Aseta, and other colleagues from both Agra and CIMIT who have pulled this session together, did all the work. It's not easy to register a side event at AGRF, but I'm glad that we have had this very interesting conversation. As a way forward, we are planning to produce a session report capturing some of these key learnings and key, insight we're hearing from different speakers, from the regional perspective, from private sector perspective, from the research, and all these are going to be consolidated into a report that is going not only to inform the AGRF 2021 communique, but also to be uploaded and accessed by the thousands of people attending AGRF this year. You are part of a 10,000 participants that we're expecting for this year's session. We will also post the video for the recording for this particular session here. For friends and colleagues who have probably missed some, the opportunity to attend this session, they can access it. You can also access it and share within your network. The same applies to, the materials that have been used in this meeting, including presentations, the report from the Kenya Market Trust. All these will be shared, and I believe the presenters have no objection for sharing some of these materials. We won't miss the opportunity to capture these interesting insights from the session. So at this time, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to welcome my colleague, and this is none other than Dr. George Bigirwa. George is our Deputy Vice President for Program Innovation and Delivery at AGRA. He has a wide experience, probably as long as Fragen's, having worked with many organizations as well, including IITA. George will deliver the closing remarks for this interesting session, and we will rest the day there. And I encourage you to keep attending and keep participating. We have, hundreds of sessions during this AGRF. This is the first day. We still have 4 more days to go. You have the website. You look at the, several sessions, plenaries, parallel workshops, and we look forward to keep engaging you all in the other sessions. George, kindly use 5 to 6 minutes to deliver the closing remarks on behalf of the organizers. Over to you, sir.
Thank you so much, Prof. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. On behalf of AGRA, distinguished speakers, participants, ladies and gentlemen, I take this opportunity to thank you for your insights and active participation in this very important session on rehabilitating acidic soils for food security in Africa. Soils, and in particular fixing acidic soils, are rarely given due attention they deserve, considering the central role they play in production and sustaining livelihoods. There is a tendency to just focus on mining soils and making little attention to address the acidity challenge. I applaud the organizers of this event, in particular AGRA, CEMIT, in partnership with East African Community Secretariat. This AGRA-CEMIT partnership is among the many initiatives AGRA is having with 1CG. This event has shown how partnership is critical in building a sustaining resilient food system and nutrition on the continent. I therefore would like to, in a special way, thank our colleague Martin from the African Development Bank, representatives from private sector from Kenya, Tanzania, Rwanda, and the research institution from Ethiopia for the collaboration and the experience shared. This event has demonstrated the need to rehabilitate our acidic soils, which cover thousands of hectares of productive land. Besides, there's need to better manage our production systems with good agronomic practices, including the 4Rs, which limit acidification of soils, using crop-specific fertilizers, organic fertilizers, and other crop technologies, which are important for sustainable and resilient food production. We all know agricultural lime is one of the best options for correcting acidic soils, and is the soil amendment product that raises pH levels. However, we have had challenges related to the availability, as different speakers have mentioned, the applicability, the information, lack of awareness among governments and farmers themselves, and how difficult it is even to transport and apply. So there's a big opportunity here for the private sector, the government, and all other players really to come together to address this challenge. The challenge is real. We need to work on it head on. And I think it would also be important to sensitize our governments and, where possible, to include lime in their subsidy programs. We know focus is mainly on fertilizers, but this is also another important input for consideration. And governments can begin to consider it if we really advocate and show cause that indeed can make a change and a big difference. We know right decisions are usually underpinned by evidence, and this comes from research. So research should be given further support to continue to generate data, which will help us to make decisions, to convince end users, including governments, in their policy reforms. From government side, we need the right policies to support various components, such as production, marketing, quality control, let alone doing countrywide mapping and analysis of soils. This is one component under this project where AGRA, CEMIT, and East African Secretariat plan to work together for an in-depth policy review. Thanks to the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation for funding this project. We are hopeful that results from this project will eventually benefit other countries to address soil acidity in Africa. To build our resilient food systems, we need more action and accountability from all stakeholders. As we continue to talk about improved delivery of inputs, let's not forget lime. Let's encourage our industrialists. Let's encourage our research fraternity. Let's encourage all other players to give it due attention. Distinguished speakers, participants, ladies and gentlemen, once again, on behalf of AGRA, I thank you for making this event so successful and look forward to the implementation and accountability of our commitment. Once again, thank you, and back to you, moderator.
Thank you very much, Dr. George Bigiwa, for these wonderful closing remarks. I don't attempt again to say anything else after your wonderful words. And thank you also for recalling that this session was actually organized in the framework of the project on guiding acidic soil management investment in Africa. And I'm saying this because we will keep engaging you all on this call and many more from your organizations. Frederick and Aseta, kindly take note of a few other questions that came through the chat. At late stage, we will have an opportunity to link the speakers to the colleagues who have raised those questions. I'm now requesting that we all put on the cameras, and I hope Frederick and Aseta, you are able to shoot a remote picture. Very unfortunately, my video has defaulted. I've prepared a very nice suit and tie, but you can't see it. Believe me, I'm not sitting on a beach in Mombasa. I'm in Nairobi at AGRF venue, so I'm not dodging the picture. Kindly switch on your videos, and we will have this memory group photo virtually with a nice background from Martin, George, Michael. Unfortunately, we can't get other participants because they are not live stream, but we have registered your participation. We really, really appreciate, and we shall keep engaging you in the framework of this initiative we're working on with the One CG Center, as George rightly recalled. At this point, allow me to call it a day and say bye-bye for now, and welcome you again to AGRF 2021, which has just started today. Bye, and see you next time. Bye-bye.